Inside of the roof of the Coleman dock was a solid billboard, the whole length of the dock. Leased it to Bert Fisher. And Bert Fisher made his living by selling advertising space, where only the people on this overhead walk going down in Coleman Dock saw it. And Bert made a good living there.
How, you said that you carried, you could carry as many as 1,000 people.
Yeah.
What would the charge be to go to Skagit or up to Mount Vernon or someplace like that?
Our charge, well, those boats didn't carry any 1,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
They were Henry Bailey had berths on them. Skagit Chief had berths on them.
Birds?
Berths, rooms.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, cabins. And that took up a lot of room, you know. But I think our rate from here to any point on the Skagit River was $1.50.
My word.
Mm-hmm.
But then,
and we would carry about 200 people. Well, we didn't have full loads all the time, I can tell you, but we carried a lot of freight. We made $300 a round trip. It cost about $100 a day to run the boat. If we could make $300 for the round trip 2 days, why, we were making money.
when did the railroad start cutting in on your river traffic?
Oh, a long, long time afterwards. We had the Bellingham route too. My dear, every route that you got down here that is marked, we had the Bellingham route, we had the Skagit River route, and we had the Port Townsend route and the Millspit route. Why are you going here to? That's Port Townsend. Oh, many boats running to Port Townsend. We had this boat going across the San Juan Islands, Smith Island's right out here.
Mm-hmm.
And we owned that. We owned the route, the route to Blaine.
And you say you owned the route.
I say, yes, we ran the boats. You couldn't own anything.
Mm-hmm.
But if anybody came on, they had it pretty tough tight. We used to have rate wars to beat the band.
Oh, that's
And we had to earn the route by giving better service for less money than the other fellow.
Did you ever have to subsidize somebody to not run his boat? In the early days, they subsidized people.
No, we never. We have butted in on several routes when we felt there was room for two boats.
Yeah.
And we've gotten the most of the business and bought the other boat out. We took the city of Denver and put her on the Connor route, the Fairhaven. It was a fine boat. It had been on the route, belonged to Pacific Navigation. And we got most of the business. We were most popular, and by and by the other boat began to lose money, and we bought her out.
How do you feel that you became the most popular and got the most business?
Well, we just tried to make friends and meet the other fella a little more than halfway and operated frugally. Those boat routes that we built up just took good service, that's all I can say. Gee, we worked awful hard to do it, I tell you. Had good crews, managed them right.
Then you got into the business of buying your own potatoes and wheat and grain.
That's a story I don't think I ever told you. When we began to get 2 or 3 or 4 boats and put on passenger boats too, to Bellingham, to Port Townsend and the Straits, why, we depended on the merchants of Seattle to ship their freight by us, the wholesalers and everybody. That's the way the boats made most of the living. At the same time we were getting these merchants' business, we were in opposition to them in buying and selling hay and oats, things of that kind. And they began to resent it. They'd come to me and they'd say, Green, you've got to be a steamboat man or a merchant. If you want to be a merchant, all right, go ahead. But we're not going to give you any freight. We're going to ship by the opposition boat.
Oh, yeah.
If you keep on buying and selling. And that period went on for 2 or 3 years. And it was a pretty serious period as we'd buy more boats and take on new routes and spread out in the steamboat business. So this fellow George Willie, who was the merchant, and we just sat down and said, we've got to fish a cut bait.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost a Chamber of Commerce proposition. But the merchants as a whole, and they were right. They said to us, now you, if you're a merchant, all right. But you can't be a merchant and a steamboat man in opposition to us.
How long did George Willie stay in with you?
Well, he was a partner of mine for 10 or 15 years. A good many years passed along in this.
Yeah.
I'm talking about 40 years
Yeah.
when I was in steamboats. Well, at any rate, we scratched our head and said it'll pay us better to be in the transportation business and not the merchant business. So we retired from buying and selling and went into the freighting business entirely, passenger and freight.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of pressure put on us. It took 2 or 3 years to
get you to give in.
Yes.
Did that cut into your profits?
Oh, yes. Oh, my dear. Merchants were encouraging other steamboats against us. I didn't want it. Oh, that was a very important crossroad in my steamboat life.
When did that take place?
Oh, it took place over 3 or 4 years. I would say just after the turn of the century, about the time of the turn of the century.